Hi everybody, welcome to day 3 of week 2 of our unit Growing Stronger. Just like in days 1 and 2, we will continue to read our fictional short story, Sweet Difficult Sounds. Before we continue, let's go through the flow of today's lesson so we know what we're going to be doing. So first you'll have your opening and do now activity, which will be a see, think, and wonder exercise. Then we'll do a before reading activity. You're going to sort the different characters that we've encountered so far in the story. Then you'll go into the text for the next part of Sweet Difficult Sounds. After reading the next part, you'll do an after the reading activity. Here you'll be able to map out some of the events and conflicts of the story and also make a prediction about what you think will happen next. Finally, you'll have your closing and connecting moment. And teachers, this session is one where you can choose whichever of these closing and connecting activities will work best for you and for your students. And please don't forget, you're going to have below in this section your note for teachers with additional tips and suggestions for how to implement today's lesson. And also note that for this particular slide after the reading, if you pull this up even further, you're going to have an answer key for this activity. So let's go ahead and get started. So again, we are on day 3 of week 2 of our unit Growing Stronger. And the title of this week is Finding Inner Strength. Our essential question is the same. How can our emotions impact our progress? How can our emotions, how we feel, impact or affect our progress, which is how we are changing and growing? We're going to be working again with the story Sweet Difficult Sounds. At this point, can somebody please read our lesson objectives here in the pink box? And teachers, pause this video and give students some time to read those out loud. Thank you for reading our lesson objectives. We have 2 today. Our first is to make logical inferences from the close reading of a text. So when we make these logical inferences after we read the story closely, we're going to think about what it meant to us, about the events and the characters. Our second lesson objective is to acquire and accurately use academic and content-specific words and phrases. So we're really focusing here on using some of our academic language, words and phrases, and English as we're speaking and writing today. So at this point, teachers, you can pause this video and conduct the opening and do now activity. Students, for this activity, you're going to be looking at the image here, and you're going to be asking yourself, what do you see? What do you think? And what do you wonder? And then here you'll have in the green box some suggestions for how to start your thought if you get stuck. And teachers, as usual, students can complete this on a document. They could write into the chat. They could speak out loud or any combination for sharing their work. So at this point, you can pause the video, complete the opening and do now activity with this image, and when you pick back up, we will facilitate the before the reading activity. Okay, welcome back. I hope you enjoyed doing your opening and do now. We will start our before reading activity, which, as we said before, is a concept sort. So you're going to be sorting here the different characters from Sweet Difficult Sounds into different categories. So going over the instructions, let me move this. Imagine that the characters from Sweet Difficult Sounds wanted to contact you on your social media account. Who would you friend? Who would you ignore? And who would you block? Explain your choices using evidence from the text. So going through these directions one more time, we're thinking about if the characters in Sweet Difficult Sounds contacted you on social media. So whether that be Snapchat, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, on some type of social media, they tried to contact you or connect with you. And you have 3 options here. You can friend them and accept their request. You can just ignore it, and you can block them, which means that they cannot contact you at all. Okay, so what we're going to do is think about our characters here. We're going to remember back to the events of the story and use those events, which will be our text evidence, to explain why we feel the way about certain characters. So I'll show you exactly how we can do this on this slide. If you go through the different characters here, we have Mrs. Johnson, Nothakula, Aunt Tandy, Ashley, and Cole. And then above we have our three categories: friend, ignore, and block. So I'll do an example for you with Ms. Johnson. So Ms. Johnson, I think of her from remembering the events. She was very kind to Nothakula on their first interaction. However, she did make Nothakula feel uncomfortable in her when they were speaking about Nothakula reciting the poem from day 2. So for Ms. Johnson, I'm not sure if I think she's a friend at this point. I don't think that she needs to be blocked, but I think I would put her maybe in the ignore category. So that's how you would use the sort on this slide. Teachers, I want to show you an additional tool which I added to our running document. You might want to create something similar. Again, we're using this document to kind of contain all of our before and after reading activities in one place so that students have all of their work in one central location. So I added on for day 3. And as you can see, this is my adaptation of our before reading activity that we're currently doing. So we have the 5 characters listed. Then we decide and write if we would friend, ignore, or block them. And then in this column, we explain our reasoning. So it gives students a space to explain. So if we're going to use a structure like this, students, I'm going to show you an example of how you can write this out and fully explain your thinking. So again, with Ms. Johnson, I said I would put her, maybe sort her into the ignore category. So I might put her here, ignore. And then again, we're explaining why, and I'm using what I remember from the text. This is our text evidence. So Ms. Johnson was kind to Nothakula in their first interaction. However, she made her uncomfortable with the reading of the poem. Okay, so I have 2 pieces of evidence from the story. I said she was kind to her the first time that they met. However, when she was reading the poem, she did make Nothakula feel a little uncomfortable, so I'm going to put her in the ignore category. So that's an example, if you're using a tool similar to this, how you could record your thinking. So teachers, let's pause this video and give students an opportunity to complete the before reading exercise with the concept sort. When you come back, we will set the purpose and go over the academic vocabulary and go into the text. Okay, I hope you enjoyed doing your concept sort and got some good ideas written out. Before you go into the text, let's just quickly review the purpose for our reading today. So let's read the purpose, which is here below in the orange box. Today we are going to continue our reading of Sweet Difficult Sounds, paying close attention to the interaction between Nothakula and Aunt Tandy. So our focus for reading as you go into the text is to pay extra attention to the interaction between Nothakula and Aunt Tandy. What are they saying to each other? How are they making each other feel? How are they reacting to each other? So that will be your focus for today's reading. We also have here our academic vocabulary, the word invisible, which we've said in days 1 and 2 means to be impossible or almost impossible to see. That's invisible. We also have the word practice, which means to do something over and over again. Sometimes you practice to get better at something by doing it over and over, or sometimes we mean it to say it's a practice, it's what we do over and over again, so it's very normal to us. So teachers, at this point, you can go into the text with the students. Please don't forget that you have an audio recording at this link as well. You'll have guiding questions in the document, and then your discussion questions here in the gray section. And then you'll do your after the reading story map, and then finally your closing and connecting.